The Duke's final ride, John Wayne's last secret, the legend rode into his final sunset, knowing something the world would never discover. The legend begins in the summer of 1976. John Wayne stood on a dusty film set in Carson City, Nevada, staring at a script that seemed to mirror his own fate. The pages trembled slightly in his weathered hands, not from the desert wind, but from something far more personal. America's most iconic cowboy was about to play his final role. And somehow the character seemed to know secrets about Wayne's own ending that even his closest friends didn't suspect. "Books, J.B. Books," he whispered to himself, reading the character's name aloud. An aging gunfighter dying of cancer, seeking one last honorable death. The irony wasn't lost on him. 3 years earlier, Wayne had undergone surgery to remove a cancerous lung and several ribs. The public knew about his routine surgery, but they didn't know about the sleepless nights, the constant pain, or the doctor's quiet warnings that still echoed in his mind. The film was called The Shootist, and it would become far more than just another Western. It would become John Wayne's farewell letter to the world. A letter written in gunpowder and regret, in courage and unspoken fear. But there was something else about this project that haunted Wayne, something he never told director Don Siegel, something he never shared with co-stars Lauren Bacall and Ron Howard. Hidden deep in his dressing room trailer was a handwritten letter, sealed but never sent, containing words that would reveal the true reason why Wayne chose this particular role as his cinematic goodbye. The man behind the gun, behind the larger-than life persona of John Wayne lived Marion Robert Morrison, a man who had built his identity around strength, patriotism, and unwavering courage. But cancer doesn't care about box office records or presidential medals of freedom. Cancer doesn't respect legends. The diagnosis had come in 1964, a quiet bomb that exploded in the privacy of a doctor's office. Lung cancer. For a man who had smoked 5 packs a day since his teenage years, it wasn't entirely surprising, but it was devastating. The surgery removed his left lung, along with several ribs, leaving him with a physical vulnerability that contradicted everything the Duke represented on screen. Wayne had always been a method actor in his own way, not through emotional exercises or character studies, but through pure willpower and authenticity. He became the characters he played by believing in their moral codes, their sense of justice, their unwavering determination. But how do you play a dying gunfighter when you are fighting your own mortal battle off camera during the filming of The Shootist? Wayne would often retreat to his trailer between takes, not for rest, but for oxygen. The Nevada heat, combined with his compromised lung capacity, left him struggling for breath. Yet he never missed a day of shooting. Cast members noticed that he'd sometimes pause mid-conversation, not for dramatic effect, but because speaking required an effort that few could understand. Lauren Bacall later recalled watching Wayne film the scene where Books receives his cancer diagnosis from the doctor. "I saw something in his eyes that wasn't acting," she said years later. It was recognition. He knew exactly what that character was feeling because he was living it. The most difficult scene for Wayne wasn't an action sequence or an emotional confrontation. It was the simple moment where Books looks in a mirror and sees his own mortality staring back. Wayne insisted on multiple takes of this scene, not because he wasn't satisfied with his performance, but because he was saying goodbye to more than just a character. The Untold chapter, the parallels between J.B. Books and John Wayne, went far deeper than a shared battle with cancer. Both were men out of time, living legends in a world that was rapidly changing around them. Books was the last gunfighter in a West that no longer had room for gunfighters. Wayne was the last movie cowboy in a Hollywood that was embracing anti-heroes and moral complexity. But the most eerie parallel was yet to be discovered. In the film, Books learns he has cancer and decides to control his own death rather than waste away in bed. He arranges a final gunfight, choosing to die on his feet with his boots on, true to the code he'd lived by. What the public didn't know was that Wayne had requested several script changes that made Book's story even more closely mirror his own internal struggle. Originally, Books was supposed to die peacefully in his sleep after the gunfight. Wayne insisted on changing it so that Books dies standing up, gun in hand, after taking down his final opponents. "A man like that doesn't die lying down," Wayne told director Don Siegel. But those close to the production noticed that Wayne's voice cracked slightly when he said it. The most haunting moment came during the filming of Book's final conversation with his landlady, played by Lauren Bacall. In the scene, Books talks about facing death with dignity, about not wanting to be remembered as weak or helpless. Wayne's delivery was so raw, so personal, that even the hardened crew members felt like they were witnessing something private and sacred. Between takes of that scene, Wayne wrote something in a letter. The same letter he kept sealed in his trailer. Ron Howard, just 22 years old at the time, remembered seeing Wayne writing by lamplight after everyone else had gone to their hotels. "He looked like he was confessing something," Howard later recalled. "Like he was telling secrets to someone who would never be able to respond." What secrets was Wayne sharing in that letter? Who was he writing to? And why did he choose the Shootist as the vehicle for his final cinematic statement? The answers would remain hidden for decades. The legacy lives on. The Shootist wrapped filming in August 1976. 3 years later, John Wayne was dead, succumbing to stomach cancer in a hospital room, far from the dusty streets and saloon doors that had made him immortal. But before he died, Wayne made several mysterious requests that only made sense years later, when film historians began to piece together the true story behind his final film. Wayne insisted that the final scene of The Shootist be shot multiple times, with different emotional approaches. In some takes, Books dies peacefully, almost relieved. In others, he dies fighting, angry at the unfairness of it all. In the final version Wayne approved, Books dies with quiet dignity, having chosen his own ending on his own terms. But Wayne kept one version locked away, a take so personal and raw that he reportedly told Don Siegel it was for the archives, not for audiences. That footage has never been seen publicly, stored somewhere in the vaults of Paramount Pictures along with other cinematic mysteries. The letter Wayne wrote during production was discovered in 1988, 9 years after his death, tucked inside a script of The Shootist that had been donated to the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. The envelope was addressed simply, "To the last cowboy, whoever you might be." Inside, Wayne had written a confession that revealed the true reason he chose The Shootist as his final role. It wasn't just because of the cancer parallels. It was because Wayne had spent his entire career playing heroes who lived by codes of honor, but he had never been tested by the ultimate challenge, facing death with grace. Playing J.B. Books wasn't just acting, it was rehearsing for his own finale. The letter also revealed Wayne's greatest fear, not death itself, but dying in a way that would disappoint the millions of people who saw him as a symbol of strength and courage. He wrote about watching other Hollywood legends fade away in hospital beds, becoming pitied rather than celebrated. "I want to ride into my sunset," he wrote, "not be carried." But perhaps the most moving passage in the letter was Wayne's acknowledgement that he had spent so many years playing the perfect hero that he had forgotten how to be vulnerable, how to admit fear, how to ask for help. "Books gets to say goodbye on his own terms," Wayne wrote. "I hope I get that same chance." The final mystery of The Shootist reveals itself only when you know what to look for. In Book's last scene, just before the gunfight, he touches his chest over his heart and says a single word that wasn't in the script. "Goodbye." Film editors assumed it was spoken to his character's life, to his legendary status as a gunfighter. But Wayne's biographer later revealed that on the last day of filming, Wayne had received news that his cancer had returned more aggressive than before. That goodbye wasn't J.B. Brooks speaking to his past. It was John Wayne saying farewell to his future. Today, The Shootist stands as more than just Wayne's final film. It is his most honest performance, a raw meditation on mortality, legacy, and the courage required to face your own ending. Every time the Duke draws his gun for the last time on screen, we're watching a man who knew exactly what he was saying goodbye to. And somewhere in the archives, that sealed letter waits like a time capsule, containing the private thoughts of America's most public hero during his most private moment of truth. The Duke may have ridden off into the sunset, but his last secret still echoes in the silence after the final gunshot. In the end, every cowboy must dismount. John Wayne just chose to write his own final scene,